Bienvenido, damas y caballeros. Welcome back to Freeform Radio on the Freeform Network. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, Freeform Network. But again, this is Freeform Radio. I am one of your hosts. My name is Daniel. With me today is Andy.
It's all good, Andy, and welcome back and ready to work your ears out.
For sure. Yeah, man. We're back together. Noel got caught up in daylight savings. I think he's still an hour behind us, but he should be here for the next recording. But yeah, we're together. I feel like this whole time thing is really screwing me up because I got like a headache, like I'm in the future right now. But I'm not one of those people that really think it should go away. I dig it because I think it lines up the times of the sun out. You know, it's not all weird and, you know, it gets super bright in the morning or stuff like that, you know. I don't know if you even have any thoughts, because I know they keep trying to elect to get rid of it, this change.
Yeah, I feel like the last decade it's been a big debate about it. I personally don't care. I mean, when I was younger, I thought it was kind of weird. But now as an adult, I really don't give a fuck no more. I think it fucked me up when I was younger a couple times when I used to work, when I worked at a grocery store and I had to work weekends. And a couple Sundays I got there late and I got a tongue lashing about, you know, it's everywhere to fucking spring ahead and fall back and all this bullshit. And but I kind of learned my lesson early on. But to me, it doesn't matter about it no more. I know there's big debate on it on the internet and social media every time this happens, and I read all the pros and cons and how it's made up and government shit. Like at this point, I really, it don't impact me that much as other people, and I know some other people they have some difficult times adjusting, especially people with like mental issues. I think there's like seasonal
Right.
diagnosis.
Where they need like those light boxes to give them light. That's right. Yeah.
I know that might impact them, maybe, from my understanding, but I personally don't give a fuck.
Well, fair enough, Andy. But yeah, we're back, man. Got some exciting stuff to talk about. And Andy, let's start it off, man. Baseball is back, man. The White Sox, they were really good last year. I was really excited to see them come back this year, but with all the strike and all the, everything being delayed, spring training being cut, I was really excited to hear this news. So why don't you fill us in on what's going on?
So yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm one of those few what's left. I'm a baseball fan. I was reading somewhere about the average baseball fan age, and it's people like in their 50s. Like, it's not a really young people don't really watch it as much, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I love baseball. I watched it growing up with my dad and my uncles, and it's just I've always watched it, the nuances in the game, and even though as much strife they've had in the last like 30 years with lockouts and strikes, I still go back and watch it, even when the pandemic early in the first year and they canceled like big chunk of the season and then they came back. I still watched it, and then I know last year there was like rumors that there was going to be a possibility of a lockout, and nobody really talked about it until it got closer and closer to baseball season. And then like a couple weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, it started like, yeah, they've been locked out, no spring training. They started canceling some series, and it's back. I mean, the players and I mean, like always, the big debates, rich people fighting each other, people with money, and the owners and the baseball players. And there were some of the things they were arguing about seems pretty. I mean, I guess in the world it's important. They were fighting about money, especially during the pandemic. Even though baseball contracts are guaranteed, from my understanding of what I read, they were fighting about. They were trying to get paid for the whole year, and I think the owners only paid them for the games they played. They only guaranteed them for the games that they were played, and they're like, we should get more. And that was like one of the big issues in like base salary and all that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
the little bit I know, it was about the DH was in contention on whether they would
yeah,
go into
they,
the national,
yeah,
and then there was also some things that I had read about the starting salary for some of these younger players coming in. I don't know if they meant like AAA or AA kind of players and
yeah,
bring their
just minor
pay up a little
leaguers.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the league
bring their pay up.
minimums, and because they get like signing bonuses and shit when they get drafted. It's like a big ton of money. But yeah, like I know they banned the shift. They're gonna speed up the game by putting like a time count between the pitches. They're gonna try to speed that up. The DH was another big thing, and all that got uh, approved, and that's gonna be some changes. And for the fundamentalist in me, the clock doesn't really bother me. The shift ban kind of does, but
Right.
and the DH, I feel like I grew up watching the DH, so to me, I think I prefer it more than seeing a pitcher bat because not all pitchers are good hitters. So, and if you got a designated hitter, I think it adds more job security to some these sluggers that all they do is got to make hits. And to me, I like it a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in that the DH to me it brings some longevity to some of these power hitters, and that's what they want. They want people to go in and
You
hit
want
home
home runs?
runs,
Yeah.
right? But I gotta admit I do like watching the National League because of that because it adds some strategy to have a pitcher up there, and it's just like, all right, the pitcher is pitching half decent. Do you want to pull him out and bring somebody else that might end up, losing the game for you? Just so that you can get a good bat up there. So it does bring some strategy into the game that I really enjoyed watching. But yeah, the DH part I kind of like. The shift too, man. I agree. It's strategic, man. They do that because players, especially these power players, they tend to swing and hit the ball only in one way. And it's typically to pull the ball so they can go for that home run. So yeah, shifting the field makes total sense. I don't understand why they got rid of that or what was their thought behind not wanting it.
Yeah, it's weird. I think it makes the hitters look bad. Those like when Tommy was with the Sox and some other players, they just move everybody to the right. It was like the whole fucking left side of the field is just like completely open. And I was just like, as a kid, you're like, what the fuck's going on? Like, why won't he pull and hit the other way? And he can't. So it makes the player just look, just doesn't look good. And I personally don't give a fuck. It's just a part of the game. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things where I'm just like, eh, it is what it is. But
Now, are they going to let people shift in from the outfield? Because you know how, like in the ninth
yeah,
inning, bases loaded, are they going to let those outfielders come in to like the shallow outfield? If there's only like one out and you're trying to keep that third baseman, and you're
possibly. Yeah,
and
that's
you're
what I'm
like, yeah,
saying.
if it goes over our head, who cares? The game's
My
over.
instinct when I read it is like they're banning that shit for like those power hitters that only hit to one side of the field. They move everybody over. That's what I thought. But they're gonna limit how much they can shift, how far they can move the players. I think you still can move them. They're just not gonna let you do that crazy where like one whole side of the field's like empty.
Right. Okay. Cool.
But yeah, with the White Sox, the way baseball ended with them last year was kind of a fucking disappointment. With LaRussa and the year before Ricky Renteria, I thought LaRussa there was a lot of issues with LaRussa, and maybe the game passed him by, and the players were like Tim Anderson, Abreu, and all that, and he kind of turned it around, and just the playoffs were kind of lackluster with the Sox, and they lost a pitcher this week. Rondon is going to the Giants. They signed a couple guys like some like 1 year deals, and they weren't really impressive signings. So if the Sox get healthy and they can hit home runs, I mean, maybe they'll make another run for it with LaRussa. But I just last year I was more excited than this year. This year I'm just like let's see what they do, and and the Cubs are rebuilding, and yeah, I mean it is what it is. I'm not. I'll watch them, but I'm not as excited as I was last year in
Wow,
this time
man.
of year.
Yeah, that's shocking to hear. I get what you're saying. Yeah, there's been some pitcher disappointments, but I'm optimistic, man. Especially with this strike. It left me really wanting. I was really excited to start seeing spring training. That's when I get to see new players that I really don't know and see what kind of changes they did during the offseason. And then you just get to hear a lot of analysts, Steve Stone, talking and breaking down, this and that happened last year. We're going to do this year. And I like hearing all that talk, and I really missed it. So
And
I'm,
then
I'm excited.
one more thing then is baseball fan watcher. You know how I don't know. You heard announcing wise for Fox. You heard how Troy Aikman left to go to ESPN to do the Monday Night Football.
Right.
So I some is this recording I was reading yesterday that Joe Buck is leaving Fox to go join them for Monday Night Football, and that
Really?
means that no more Joe Buck listening for baseball. That the voice of the World Series that the last 20 years he was the voice. He's leaving to go do football with ESPN and Troy Aikman. That Fox is like, you want to go talk to him? Go talk to him. We had a good run, and they offered him a deal, but it was nowhere near what ESPN is offering. And to me, I was just
Wow.
like Joe Buck. I wasn't always. I thought he was good. I know his dad is a legend. He does football and baseball, and I fucking felt like another change, And I feel like he's young, so I'm like, I don't know. I didn't. That kind of sucked for me. I wish he would have stayed.
I really like Troy Aikman. I think he's a great analyst. And Joe Buck, I like him, even though a lot of people seem to hate him.
They like
And
shitting on him, yeah.
right. And
I think he's all right. Yeah.
Even Chris Collinsworth, I really dug him, man. I thought he was
I don't like Collinsworth. Yeah.
I thought he was a good announcer. I really dug him. I'm gonna miss seeing him. I even heard this week. I was listening to some sports talk, and they were talking about how Jay Cutler might come back and do
Yeah.
some analyst talk. Yeah,
That's not saying, dude. Like the national wise, for baseball, I fucking feel like that consistency. Joe Buck, a lot of people grew up listening to Joe Buck do the World Series and playoffs games for Fox, and him leaving, I think, might hurt him in the long run. He might do some baseball for ESPN, but I think the biggest thing I saw on social media, people were upset that they're losing that voice for the World Series games, which Fox has the rights to. And I kind of feel like that. Football, he's like you said, he's all right, but baseball, he was pretty. I felt like he was a good announcer in baseball, and it's gonna suck, dude. And I was trying to see some of the names that were coming up with. I don't even know who half these people are. And there's a couple of names I heard, but like I grew up listening. Hawk Harrelson and locally and national. I remember Bob Costas did a lot of games and some other people, but like I feel Joe Buck not doing baseball games I think is gonna hurt him. I
wow,
know people.
man.
I like Tom Brenneman a long time, but he said some racist and homophobic stuff and that kind of sideline. But that guy was, I mean, say what you will, but he got fired for what he said. But yeah, he was a pretty good announcer, and um, I like National League. Nationally, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, what MLB does, Bob Costa still does some games nationally in the MLB network, but ESPN guys, I don't like the guys they have, and Joe Buck, I think he was pretty good with the pitcher even before him, Smoltz, and the guy before him, McCarver. That was pretty good combos.
Yeah, Bob Costas, man. I used to like hearing him during the Bulls games.
Yep.
When they would have it, man, it was some
And the
good
NBA,
stuff.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Bob Costas, he did a lot of stuff: baseball, football, wrestling. He did talk shows, and he's still on MLB Network, and he does the games. And when I hear him, it reminds me something like when I was younger, because he was a pretty good baseball announcer, and it's just interesting to see like what happens. But yeah, it is what it is. Changes, I guess, is good. We'll see. That's the only thing I was reading. Like Monday Night Football, it's always like the announcing teams have been like a carousel like the last decade, and they keep changing it. And when I heard Aikman left, I was shocked. Well, first they were trying to get Romo, right? They gave him like an ungodly offer, and then they were trying to get Peyton Manning to do it, and then I don't know what happened with him, and then like, oh, Troy Aikman's leaving Fox to do Monday Night Football. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then I'm like, I wonder who's gonna go with him. And then it broke yesterday that Fox gave him permission to go talk to ESPN, and they made him an offer, and he's like, well, I'm taking it. So I was like, fuck. So who's the new A team on Fox Football, right?
Right, because whenever you heard them announcing something, you knew that was gonna be a good game, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's yeah. I mean, it sucks. But going back to baseball, yeah. Let's see what the White Sox do, and I don't know. The Cubs are gonna suck. They always suck. So we'll see what happens, and it's gonna be interesting to see. Now they have a shortened season. I think with what they closed a couple series out. I think 2 series they pushed they scrapped for the start of the season. So we'll see what happens, man. Because the games technically start at the end of this month, right? The first official games early April. So we'll see. But the other thing we were talking about before recording, we were talking about Danny's not a big believer in naps, but I'm a power nap king. We were talking about a little bit before we came on, and I was telling him I wanted to tell him the story yesterday. I was kind of out of it, and then we were gonna go out to dinner, and I took a quick 20-minute power nap then, and it just re-energized me to eat that fat ass steak I had for dinner.
Nice, man. What kind of steak you get?
I got some a nice ribeye at some steakhouse up here, and I was thinking, like, we were talking. I was like, man, like you always shit on people who take naps, but I think taking a nice nap, power nap, a 20-minute nap, I think it helps you out immensely in the long run, and especially with this time change that today, you're gonna have to do that, man, to recharge because you woke. It sounds to me like you woke up super early.
Right. No, yeah, power nap is good on the rarity, but if that's just your routine, like every day you get home from work, you take a half-hour nap, then you eat dinner, then you shower and go to bed, or whatever your routine is, that to me, there's something wrong if you're taking daily naps. Now, obviously, if something out of the ordinary happens, you woke up early, you didn't sleep that well that night, you stayed up because you went to a party or something. Naps, by all means, they really recharge you. You take a good half hour. I'm not talking about like a 2-3 hour nap because that's not a nap no more. You're asleep at that point. But a good half hour power nap for sure, man. That does re-energize the battery sometimes.
So when you take a nap, Dandy, are you taking like a half hour, or what do you think? An hour at most?
Yeah, I mean, I think an hour is really pushing it. I mean, it honestly, the last nap that I took was actually yesterday. I took a nap because we were driving down to see my parents. And in the morning, we had done all these errands. Alana and Junior had dentist appointments, and we did groceries. And when I got home, I'm like, all right, we're going to have to trek out to my parents. So I took a quick, like, 15, 20-minute nap. And when I woke up, I felt a lot better. And I'm like, oh, man, okay, cool. Recharged my batteries, got my water, and then we took off. It does help. It does help. But to me, it's like it should be the rarity. It shouldn't be like just your daily, like, all right, to function for Monday, I need to take a nap sometime during the day. To function for Tuesday, I need to take a nap to function for the day. Stuff like that to me is like, nah.
So my other question real quick would be, I usually take a nap in the bed, or do you take a nap in the bed or the couch? Where do you go?
I think for the majority, I tend to take them in the couch because it makes them more brief. I feel like if I'm going in bed, my body's just used to, all right, you're going to be here for 6-7 hours kind of thing. And I'm afraid if I go to the bed, I'm gonna knock out for a few hours.
I'm like,
I gotta be able to get it.
That's why I'm like, let me ask Dan. I bet you like this motherfucker sleeping on the couch because he's gonna shit on the bed.
Yeah,
'Cause,
I mean,
yeah, the couch, my couch here. I mean, we have a couch, obviously, but it's not as comfortable as to sleep on as some of my previous couches. So I'm just like, I know if I lay my head down and in my bedroom in my bed and my head hits the pillow, I'm gonna knock out and have a really nice fucking power nap, and then I'll be ready to go. The couch, sometimes I'll fall asleep on there, and I feel like I wake up more tired because I struggle to like fall asleep than I would if I was on the couch. That's my
right.
only issue.
No, a bed definitely. Like if you're feeling sick, like man, I'm feeling like I'm gonna get a cold or something like that. Then yeah, the bed by all means, man. That's an awesome spot to knock out for half hour, an hour. Kind of wake up and feel better. Be like, all right, I still got a little bit of a stuffy nose, but I don't feel like shit anymore. So yeah, definitely the bed is definitely a good place to nap. But to me, that's more like you're you're almost banking it that you're gonna be there for like an hour or two. To me, that the couch is more like a 10 minute to an hour, the most kind of nap.
Do you use a blanket?
No, I think if you use a blanket, you're just giving up for the day and you're ready to just not. You're
I
just
have
ready.
blankets. We have blankets like fleece blankets and shit.
Oh
So
yeah,
we
yeah,
got like
yeah.
a couple here by the living room, and then I might roll one up as an extra pillow, and then I use another one to throw on top of me, and then I'm
No,
like
that
I'm ready to rock and roll when I wake up like 40 minutes later.
no for sure, man. A blanket, I keep one in the living room because it does get a little chilly sometimes because I keep the heat kind of low. And yeah, for sure, man, a blanket is awesome. But I'm just saying that if you're putting pillows and blankets, you're forfeiting to that. That's it, man. This is my day right here, going to sleep.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think about what's considered a nap, and Danny's eyes going over an hour's overboard because at ffnquestions@gmail.com, because to me, like, Danny's a stickler for some of these rules, and to me, I'm just like, if you sleep for 2 hours, I think it's still a nap, but anything over two, I think you're pushing it. And then also it depends. Like a big thing is like what time of the day. Usually late afternoon is when I kind of feel it. Like if to me, if you wake up and you start doing shit, and then like if it's still before, I think if you do it before lunch, to me in my mind, I'm like, well, something's wrong because to me normally you shouldn't be taking naps before lunch.
Right. Yeah, you should still have the energy from waking up.
Right, right. And after eating a decent breakfast. But again, let us know what you guys think. What's the best time for you to nap, and what do you need to nap? Or if you're working at home or from your job, do you? I know people sneak away to take naps in cars, so
Right.
I've seen it all. So let us know what your preferred way to nap or where to nap and what time at ffnquestions@gmail.com. But after a good nap, then I see you watched some movies here. I see you watched recently Ghostbuster Afterlife. So I'm guessing that's the new, not the new one, but not the all woman one, right? That's the I
Right.
don't the
This
one they're trying to like forget that movie. We got a new one now. This is a lot better.
exactly. Yeah, this is the new one where it's more of an emphasis on the younger generation kids. These kids, they're like super Ghostbusters, and they're the ones that can do everything. Um, I gotta say, I had heard a lot of bad stuff about this. I had heard that,
Really?
yeah. Well, originally, when it's been out for a good minute already, but I had heard some bad stuff, and I was just like, man, I don't know if I really want to watch it. At first I was really hyped to go see it at the theaters, and Junior used to be a big Ghostbusters fan when he was younger, so I thought he was going to be hyped up too, but he didn't really get excited for it. He was just like, whatever. If we see it, it's cool, but um, no really big excitement for it. So um, it was just me and Alana that watched it, and I
Oh,
like
okay. I thought the
I
only reason you watched it was for Junior.
no, I'm a Ghostbusters fan. I think they're good. I like the first one. The second one is kind of a little more campy and cheesy, but it's still got its place. And then the cartoon ones, man, those were awesome. The
Yeah.
real Ghostbusters, those were really good. But
I saw real quick a little video on YouTube, the real Ghostbusters and the the what I used to consider the knockoff Ghostbusters.
Right.
The original or the Ghostbusters, they started a show like in the late 70s,
Right. It
and
was a
then
live action. Yeah.
yeah, and then they turned it when this got really popular. There was some litigation or some shit, I don't know, and then that's when they made the cartoon, and there was like all this like kids were confused and shit, and I saw what they had, that big monkey and all that, and
Right.
yeah, it wasn't successful, but yeah, it was an interesting take because that was weird when we were growing up and to see Ghostbusters and the real Ghostbusters, and it was an interesting time.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, I had heard some kind of negative stuff about Ghostbusters. Nothing plot wise, but just that it wasn't that good. If you were expecting like this awesome return to greatness, because a lot of people didn't really care for the all women crew, even though I thought that one was okay.
Nah, that one sucked.
It wasn't good or great, but it was okay.
It generally sucked, and Rotten Tomatoes reflects that reviews.
Right, right. I know a lot of people didn't care for it, but Ghostbusters, I kind of got the feeling that people were giving it like a C, D kind of thing. It wasn't the greatest. But I gotta say, after watching it, it's probably closer to a B.
Really?
It's nothing great. So if you go in with super high expectations, it's not super great. But it had a few nostalgia pops. It had some returning characters that really put a smile on my face, and I somewhat enjoyed it, man. I thought it was pretty good. Had a half decent plot, some plot holes, but it's kind of tough to make something new, but then kind of attach it to the older stuff. So I could see how that can be kind of challenging. But yeah, man, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it, and for any kind of like Ghostbusters fan, I would strongly suggest it. For any kind of person that's just going to go watch a movie, I could see how maybe they might not like it so much. Did you have any interest? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do. The only interest I have is, I don't know. I mean, I don't care. I don't know if you want to do is Egon in on this, because I don't recall if that character or the actor passed away before or after they filmed this.
Yeah, the actor passed away before this, and I think quite a few years before this. And actually, the director just passed away, I think, this year. The previous director.
Yeah.
So he does play a role in the movie. Obviously, he's passed away, so they kind of get around it a little bit. And then they use some old like footage to kind of like flashback to the original stuff. So I think it's well done, at least that portion where they kind of harp back to some of the older stuff. But this movie definitely is Stranger Things, the Goonies kind of thing.
Then yeah, it's pretty cool if it has that type of tone.
Right. I mean, it's definitely not as good as Goonies. Goonies is awesome. But it's more akin to like the newer generation where it's kids that are separate, and then the movie brings them together, and then they're like, we gotta conquer this outstanding force that's trying to demolish our world. So it's more like that, and then all the adults are idiots. It's just like, yeah, what is this? How's this work? And then the kids come up there and they're able to calculate trigonometry and all these physics and figure shit out, but the adults are all like idiots. Minus the Paul Rudd character. He's like a seismologist.
That guy never ages, dude. He's like 50 and shit.
Yeah, he's actually a somewhat intelligent guy in the movie, but almost everybody else are just like idiots for the most part. but it's a cool movie, man. I dug it. I'm glad I watched it. I was almost gonna pass on it, especially with all these like newer remake sort of movies like Matrix. It kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. Like, man, I don't know if I want to ruin the good vibes that I have for these movies to watch these newer ones.
Yeah, and you're not alone in that feeling. Then I was reading some stuff, the remakes or sequels, and like 90+% of them, the people they're trying to get to watch it, they generally don't like them, and they haven't been real successful in bringing that because of other stuff that's going on, political or social, themes that they add to it and push on people. But you're not alone in that feeling where people are like kind of hesitant to watch it because they're like, they're probably gonna push some agenda on me, and the characters that I do like, they might make them look dumb or weak or like, oh, you ain't the motherfucker, it's this girl or whatever. And a lot of people are just they're sick of that, and it's a big thing. I was reading on like something like 90% of those movies, like people are just like, yeah, it was just like a waste of my time, and they just shitted on everything that I liked and loved when it coming to those popular franchises. And it kind of started with like Star Wars, the second one,
Right.
what they did to Luke, and even Mark Hamill had some comments like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And people, that's what kind of started this whole fucking trend.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hey man, speaking of Star Wars, did you see the trailer for Obi-Wan? That looks pretty
No, I
awesome.
haven't. I saw him. He had some Jordy glasses or some shit. I saw a picture or
Right,
something,
right.
and I'm like, "What was it? They're combining this shit." So, no, I heard. I read some stuff on social media. I haven't really seen anything. What'd you think?
I thought it looked cool. I always liked him as the character for Obi-Wan, and I think his age now kind of even fits it because it obviously takes place right after all the Jedi's get killed.
The
At,
prequels, right?
yeah, after the prequels. So it's in between the prequels and A New Hope. So he fits the age, man, where he's kind of older-ish. He's like in his 60s, kind of, something around that age. And I think it's going to be awesome. That funny meme is going around where he's got the glasses, and
Yeah.
the reason why it reminded me is that it shows him without the glasses. He puts on the glasses, and then he sees Luke taking like some of that cow milk or that whatever
Yeah.
milk, that blue milk,
Yeah.
and then he just goes back to his face, and he's just like, I don't know, man. So
That's
yeah,
all I saw. That's what was trending on social media, and some people said like, yeah, it looks good. And I haven't seen the second season of whatever Mandalorian. I haven't even seen the Boba Fett stuff. And like I have, not that I don't have interest. I'm like, I could wait. I mean, I'm not like, oh, like I gotta watch it. I gotta watch it. And that's
right.
my feeling lately with the some of the Star Wars shows. And I do want to see him, but I'm in no rush to see him. And
Yeah,
and that's, I'm not as excited.
I had signed up for the first Mandalorian, and then I also kept it going until I saw the second one. But after the second one was done, there was really nothing on there that I was super interested in on the Disney Network, so I dropped it. But now that the Boba Fett stuff is going, and now that this Obi-Wan, I'm thinking I'm gonna sign up once the Obi-Wan is kind of in motion, so
Well,
that I
there's gonna
can.
be a price increase, you know that, right? Now.
Yeah, well, everything's getting
And then
price increase.
they're gonna have the commercial one. I don't know how cheap they're gonna make it.
Oh wow, huh, I didn't hear that. But yeah, I'll probably sign on just to catch up with the Boba Fett stuff. Maybe Mandalorian 3 will be out, and then the Obi-Wan stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
let us know your reviews, man. I mean, I've only know what you told me. We've been trying to watch like Yellowstone. That's the only one I really want to watch. But I'm like, being, not that we don't have time. It's just like I I don't know. I'm just a fucking that old man now. I'm just like, I could wait. I'm like no rush to watch stuff.
right. No, that's for sure. Something else that I kind of did this past week, not this week because this week was kind of cold, but that one day that we had that Saturday that was beautiful, man, where it was like 60, almost 70 degrees. We went to the local dog park over here, and man, I gotta say this dog park is awesome, man. It's right off of Liberty, and I can't recall the cross street now, but it's like this huge forest preserve area that they designate just for dogs. It's all enclosed, so they got this huge fence all the way around it. So it's a loose leash park, like most dog parks are. And you go and you take your dog, and they have like this double gate, so you can walk in, walk your dog. First, you open the gate, you walk your dog in, and now there's a second gate where now you can take off your leash and open up the second gate, and the dog runs through. And so, man, this thing is huge, man. I mean, we walked the entire perimeter of the inside part, because there's another one where it goes into the forest where they like carved out a path for dogs that want to go like into the brush back there. And we just did the outside part, not going into the like the woods. And it was 2 miles just to walk the perimeter of it.
Were you tired?
And actually, I was kind of tired, man. I'm not really a big exercise guy, which I'm trying to change that and get more into shape. But after walking that, I was just like, wow, man, this is rough, because some of it's kind of hilly, up and down, and even though it was a nice day, it was like 60 degrees. There was still some snow caps every now and then you would see, and then it was muddy because all that snow had melted, so it just seeped into the grass, and dogs are walking everywhere, so it just turned into like a little bit of a muddy mess. But I gotta say, man, it was pretty awesome to see stuff like that for dogs. And then not this one, unless it's inside the woods, but I know another one that's in our area supposedly has like a pond that dogs can jump in and play fetch in the water or do whatever the hell dogs do in the water. But it was really cool to see a place dedicated for dogs that was that big. The old place that I used to live in, they had a dedicated dog park as well, but it was like the size of my backyard. The only difference is that dogs go there to socialize, but it was kind of small. It wasn't nothing big or exaggerated. This thing, it's like going to la segunda entrada on Irving Park Road. It was like that. It was a big part of land dedicated just for dogs.
So is it open to the community, or is it the ones where you gotta pay, or do you need all these special? Like, I know a lot of dog parks like shots and fucking fee to join, or seasonal fees or anything, or you just walk up in there with any old dog and like go do your thing, dog.
No, there are some requirements. It's organized by I want to say like Lake County, and you do have to have requirements. So you fill out this application, and I believe it's like $20 a year. And then you got to put, proof of, he's got this vaccine, and this vaccine. And as soon as you prove these few things, they email you something, you print it out, and you just put it in your car. Now, I've never seen anybody kind of like going up and down patrolling to make sure everybody's got this piece of paper. Right. But we do have the paper. We did fill it out and got our license or whatever application thing. But man, it gets packed. I mean,
so let me ask, someone asks you, like a random dude's like, hey, let me go see your papers for your dog. Are you going to show it to him then?
I don't think I'd show him to him unless he's like some man of authority. But if it's just like if it's just some random Joe Schmo right there, I'll be like, nah, man, you're no cop. What the hell are you asking me? What are you worried about me for? But obviously, if there's some kind of like forest ranger or some kind of cop, then yeah, obviously I would show him the paperwork. But just some regular Joe, I'd be like, it's none of your business. But
no, I'm just
yeah.
That'd be interesting. Like like you said, there's nobody like walking around like some random. They're just like, hey man, let me see your dog's up to date. Are you gonna be like, man, you're a dick. Who the fuck are you?
I could see that happening if there was like an incident. But I gotta say, man, other than maybe a couple dogs kind of nipping at each other, all these dogs were like really chill and kind of running around and really socializing well. I mean, Bagel at first would stay by us and not really venture off too far. She would, like kind of wander off a couple feet, but then she would just circle back until like she really got into the groove, and then she started kind of running around with some of the other dogs and exercising, and she started socializing a lot more. But Yeah, man, it's a huge park, ton of dogs, and I gotta say, man, they really socialized well and behaved well. Uh, to the point where I got really relaxed towards the end. At first, I was kind of worried, is Bagel gonna bite one of these kids or kind of get crazy and get into a fight with another dog? But I didn't see any of that. It seemed pretty cool place to go to hang out with the dogs.
But your dog's never really showed like aggressive tendencies that you've seen, right?
No, I mean sometimes she does get kind of crazy. I mean that one day you came over with Gil, and he kind of growled at Gil because he stood up. Stuff like that. She does do that. She does protect the house quite a bit. We just had a window salesman come in a couple days ago and quote us for some new windows, and she was growling like hell when he walked in, and even when he sat down to show us the brochures and all that. She was growling. So
So
she doesn't like it when
I
people are in
just
the
want to
house.
reiterate to our fans here that the Danny's dog didn't growl at me because the dog knows I'm an alpha male. So
Right,
to
right,
everybody else, is like, oh, I ain't fucking with him, but I'll fuck with these other two people.
right. Yeah, surprisingly, he did not, or she did not growl at you. So yeah, who knows what that's about?
That she recognizes, like, oh, this motherfucker is a real gangster. I'm fucking with him.
Maybe, maybe. But yeah, cool place, man. Hopefully, especially now that we're members or whatever for the year, that we probably take more advantage. This week is supposed to be pretty awesome, so maybe we'll venture out there again in my trek to kind of get a little more active and get a little more exercise in. But Andy, let's jump into our article of the week. All right, Andy. Article of the week time. This one is actually not an article, but something that we watched. It's on Netflix. The Malice at the Palace. I had heard about this when it first happened. Obviously, because it was during the heat of really good basketball, and I was a big fan at that time. I was really watching basketball. I kind of weird away from it these last couple of years. But man, when I had heard about this at the time, I didn't really pay too much attention to it. It wasn't my team. Ron Artest. The only kind of close resemblance that I had to is that Ron Artest used to be a Bulls player. But otherwise, I didn't really care too much until I watched this documentary and saw how widespread this thing was and how impactful it was to the NBA. Now you've seen the documentary too. What are your initial thoughts with this documentary?
No, I remember it like yesterday. Now, with Ron Artest, he was a bull, but what I remember with him, when he signed this deal, they made like a special contract with him because they didn't want him to lose his money. That was like one of the first times I'm like, what? Like, so to me, I already knew from my reading about him back in the day that I want to say he had mental issues, but he had some issues, and the Bulls were worried about him, like doing dumb stuff about with his money, and he had
So
somebody with him, and then it just didn't work out here. He did some goofy stuff, or they started seeing stuff where like we gotta get rid of this guy, and then they sent him to Indiana, and then the other big player, Jermaine O'Neal. I remember when he got drafted out of high school, he went to Portland, and it just like it was weird because there was a lot of hype around him, and it just didn't work out in Portland. And then he went to Indiana, and then with him with Reggie Miller, I mean they were the team for a while, and but Artest had like his little weird things you read. I would remember seeing on SportsCenter a couple of his little things that he would do. He was like very aloof, and Jermaine O'Neal, I didn't know he was so business like that. That's what I got from the,
the
the
documentary,
documentary. Yeah, I didn't
right?
know he was like that. I thought he was just like a young kid at the time, and like nah, he was about his career and all. He was very professional, so that kind of shocked me. I didn't expect that. And, everybody knows Reggie Miller, and then so yeah, that's one of the things I got from that. And he was articulate and all that. And Ron Artest is still like whatever, dude, like meta world peace, and he came off to me like he hasn't matured, and like when this happened, it was early on in the early 2000s, and some of the words that crept out at the time wasn't as big as then, like about depression and bipolar and all that shit. Like it wasn't
Right.
back then. It was just like it didn't talk about it how they talk about it now. They just they said different things. So yeah,
Right. Right. I agree. I think the mental issues are kind of you know problems with anxiety and stuff like
yeah,
that
the anxiety and all that shit. Yes,
wasn't widely spoken back in the day. There wasn't safe zones that you can escape to and stuff like they have nowadays. Um, but yeah, you could tell right away that there was something a little weird with this guy. Kind of like
our test.
uh, yeah, kind of
Yeah,
like Dennis Rodman, kind of
yeah,
where
but
he's
they
got a
were winning.
quirky,
Yeah,
eccentric kind of character that definitely comes with their own baggage and maybe some difficult things that the team has to do to make it work. And from what I recall from the Bulls, he was a good player, but it just had too many of these little oddities that the Bulls just decided let's cut ties with him. And yeah, man, it looks like he was a half decent, great player. After he left the Bulls, I really
yeah,
didn't pay
yeah.
attention or follow up with him, so I didn't really know too much of him. But the documentary plays it off like he was a really talented player, especially like what you mentioned with O'Neal. Uh, but and then obviously, man, Reggie Miller, he was an awesome player in his time, and that was the other thing. I guess without getting too sidetracked, the other thing that I really felt bad for Reggie Miller at during this documentary because you could see how bad he wanted a championship, and for them to screw up with the Malice at the Palace and kind of his last hope to go for a championship. And it looked like they had all the pieces that they needed to make a good run because they were really a good team the year
Yeah,
before.
they were in the running until they got the third player in another trade. I can't remember his name. He was just like that workhorse guy, and he was kind of like, yeah, man, I'm from the fucking streets. Let's fucking do this and smoking weed and shit.
Right.
And damn, I forgot his name, but that's when they really made that run that year, and all this shit happened.
Yeah, yeah. It's really unfortunate, man. I do feel bad for older players like that because it reminds me of Michael Jordan, and Jordan had so much success. And I know that was a big rivalry for him was Reggie Miller. But after watching this documentary, it made me feel bad for him to the point where it's just like I wish his team could have pulled it together so that they could have won a championship for him.
No, yeah, I mean, I never liked Miller. I think I feel like he was a prima donna. I just he was all right, but he was never to me. I always felt like Barkley should have gotten a ring, and like I felt like he got over. Like I remember when Drexler was in Portland all them years, and he went to Houston, and he
Right.
won with Elijah one and them. Like yeah, they deserved it because they were like grinders. Reggie Miller, I never got that from him. Even hell, Patrick Ewing and those Knicks teams, like I felt he should have gotten a ring. Miller, not really. I never really liked him like that. He was a good player, but I was like, fuck him. I'm like, I'm not that glad he didn't get it. I'm like, it just that's happens. I don't think to me. I don't think it. I look at it how you're describing it, how the documentary portrayed it, like, oh, he did everything right and it was his time, and then this shit happened.
Right, right. Yeah, I think the other player you're talking about is Steven Jackson.
Yeah, Steven Jackson. There you go.
Yeah, Steven Jackson. He was the third guy that got
Yeah.
into the brawl. Yeah, because they were fighting against Ron Artest. Because I guess for people that don't know out there, what this even's about is that Ron Artest had a physical altercation with one of the guys from Detroit, because Detroit at that time were known as the bad
Like,
boys of basketball. Man, those guys played rough, and even during Michael Jordan's games, man, those guys, there would be some rough play.
yeah,
So
they had some grinders, and the Bad Boys were the team that won championships, and then the Bulls beat them, and then they kind of had a resurgence with Ben Wallace and some of
right,
these other guys, and Rashid, and they were, they good D old school basketball, and um, yeah, I mean they were known for being hard again, and like fucking Detroit, like always, they got some bullshit going up at the Palace at Auburn Hills. Um, and so that's why I remember the this game significantly, because it was on Sports Center, and they kept replaying the shit over and over. And like you said, it was like a series or a game that they were it was like nationally broadcast, and like there's a lot of build up around it because it was like potential playoff matchup.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Speaking of Bob Carlos, Costas, I think he was the announcer for this, if I recall
I
correctly.
don't remember that, but yeah,
But yeah, one of the Wallaces got into an altercation with Ron Artest with
yeah.
a really hard foul or an
Hmm.
elbow or something, and it caused it where there was like a little bit of a ruckus on the field or on the basketball court. So Ron Artest kind of goes to the side. Uh, he lays down on the scoreboard.
Yeah, because it
So,
was a
or
blowout, if I remember right.
yeah, they were winning by quite a bit or
Yeah, and
something.
people started leaving, and then the people from up the cheap seats started coming down. They even talk about it in the documentary, right? Like
Right?
people are
Yeah.
just filtering down, and the bottom gets more filled up, and the top is getting empty, and people on the bottom are leaving, and more people are coming in. It's so the cheap seat people are coming down.
Yeah, so Ron Artest is laying down on that official scoreboard, whatever, in the front, and while he's laying there, a fan throws either a water bottle or a beer bottle,
I think it's a
and,
beer.
and hits him, and it just comes out of the stands. So it's kind of difficult to even see it during the footage unless you see like all the extra cameras, because after they investigated, they found all these extra footage, and they ended up identifying who the guy was. But initially, when it first happened,
Yeah,
I can't really see how Ron Artest or even anybody could really judge who this person was clearly. But Ron Artest takes off into the stands and just starts boxing people that he
yes.
people he thinks threw the bottle. Which funny, after the documentary goes into a little bit, it was actually the guy next to
Yeah, he went
uh,
after the wrong guy.
right. He hit the guy next to the guy that actually threw it, but he starts boxing him, and then a few more people get into it, and that's when Jackson comes back because he sees these people kind of gaining up on Artest, and Jackson comes out and tries to defend him, and then O'Neal he also comes out and starts kind of
I think
contributing.
O'Neal was walking away, right? Or
Yeah,
he
he
was
was
leaving, and then someone told him, and he like walked back out or something. If I remember when
right
I
because
saw
they
this
were
document, yeah,
yeah, they were trying to clear people off of the
yeah,
off of
yes,
the field or whatever,
because
the
Reggie
basketball
Miller
court.
was hurt for this game, and he was there like in a suit. Remember that? That was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
another big thing. Yeah,
That was the other funny part, is that he was in a suit, and when security finally got there, when the cops finally got there, they were ready to arrest Reggie Miller because he had a suit on, and they're like, "Who the hell are you? What are you doing on the basketball court?" And he's just like, "Man, I'm Reggie Miller, man." And the cops were like, "Man, I don't know who the hell you
you're
are,
like,
man."
oh, that motherfucker that hasn't won a ring, man, get him out of here, man.
But yeah, it was a ton of ruckus. The fight ensued for what seemed like endlessly, man. It was like half an hour of just like chaos.
And
And
then, yeah, one of the guys from the upper deck, they talked to him in the documentary. He runs down, right? He
right, yeah,
gets
he
on the
runs.
court, and I forgot if he stares at our test or somebody else, and they just started swinging, right?
Right, yeah. Ron Artest finally comes back down from like the
Yeah.
stands, and he's kind of like calming down, but you could see that he's still really agitated. And this fan, the guy like you mentioned,
It was like
that
two
came,
dudes or something.
yeah, that came down. He was a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
He comes down and he's just like walking
Like, what you
like
gonna
on the
do, man?
floor.
Yeah.
And I didn't really see it, but allegedly they were saying that he kind of clenched his fist and was like
Yes.
getting ready to hit somebody. And so Ron Artest was, defending himself and knocked this guy out almost.
Yes.
So they had to pull him off of him because they're like, man, this Ron Artest is going to kill this guy. And the guy ended up suing, and I think they ended up putting criminal charges against the fan. And that didn't really go anywhere, and
And
the guy
then
just went away.
once the cops got down there, they got a kind of a hold somewhat control. The cameras are recording all this, and then when Steven Jackson's walking back to the locker room, he says something. You remember what he said then?
Yeah, he
That was
says
like
something.
another big fucking thing. They made a big thing about it in the documentary.
Yeah, he like swore or said something like, "Man, I don't give a fuck, man. He's
Yeah,
my brother, and
yeah,
I'll whatever."
yeah, and
He's
that
like,
got
"I'll
him in
do this all
trouble.
day long."
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, needless to say, after all of that was settled down, they suspended the three players for the rest of the year. I believe all
yeah,
three, and then they ended up appealing it, and I think O'Neal was the only one that got his sentence reduced.
yes.
But Jackson and Ron Artest ended up serving the full year suspension, where they were gone for the year. So yeah, man, it was crazy. Again, I remember seeing it on Sports Center or whatever the sports channel it was back
Yeah,
in the day, and it was nuts, man. I couldn't believe something like this would happen.
and like always, like the political fallout, 24/7 news cycle. The other big thing, which they talk about in the documentary, oh, the league is full of thugs. That's another word
Right.
for something else. Then they're like they got tattoos, like all this BS, and the league's out of control. And like always, like even today, they're just judging, and like Artest shouldn't have done this, and then like they get arrested, they get filed for charges, and like the meantime, the prosecutor is trying to find, like, he's watching tape, hours of tape, and then I don't recall the guy who started it throwing that beer. He was like kind of challenging them on the news or something, right? And then I don't recall if he got charged or not, or something happened, or he struck a plea deal. You
I
remember
believe
that part?
I believe they did charge him, but from what I recall, the charges weren't anywhere near severe. It was like, yeah, pay $1,000
Yeah,
and
it was
you're on
like a
probation for three
misdemeanor. Yeah,
months.
it was like
Yeah, yeah,
something like nothing. And
right.
this guy caused, you see in the document, people being led into being arrested, people being led into ambulances, and it was like a fucking mess. And Artest talked about, like, after that or something, I want to work on my rap album. I ain't doing shit, right? Like, that's all he cared about, because he had his anxiety and whatever issues he had. And Jermaine O'Neal kind of like suffered uh, the worst of it, and like I didn't like being called thug and all this shit. Like, nobody knows how I was raised, and I think Reggie Miller ended up retiring. I think Steven Jackson he hung around, and he was playing like in China or some shit, right? Like, it was like nobody really recovered, and in the end, it was never like really in contention, if I remember correctly. And like Artest went on to play for the Lakers, and like he won a ring. And then they
Right.
have that clip where he's talking about he felt kind of bad for O'Neal and Reggie Miller because he won and they didn't win shit.
Right. He did make mention of that. That was the other part that made me feel bad, that this guy who really started the whole thing, he ends up going to a good team, ends up winning a ring, and the people that were around you that were, Reggie Miller, O'Neal, that were kind of like lifers or were there for a minute in Indiana, they're the ones that got stuck and they didn't get anything. So
Bruh.
yeah, I did feel bad after the documentary was over.
And like and then like that's how I kind of remember. And like I said, he is Ron Artest has always been weird. but that malice thing, I feel like people are like, well, you should let security handle it, and I feel knowing how they grew up, I mean, I don't want to say it's justified, but that's like the only reaction they know and how to react to it, and like, yes, like there's security and all this, but I mean, and the problem is he ran after the wrong guy. I think if he would have gotten the original guy, maybe some shit would have been fucked up. And I also feel like the police is like there, and then it was like, well, what do you like? They're basically like, what do you want us to do, right? Like that's your fucking job to gain some control along with security, and like that really didn't happen.
Yeah, I do see it where the security and police just didn't react fast enough, especially for how severe and how crazy it got.
Yes.
There was like no reaction. I mean, I'm telling you, it seemed like 10 minutes of chaos until you finally started seeing officials and cops. Yeah. So
and the
it was
cop
nuts.
is like, I forgot, there was two of them they were interviewing, and one of them's like, there was nothing could have been done, or like he just was like all nonchalant about it. And the guy with the head of security for the Auburn, the Palace, and he was just
Garcia's security.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, we should have done this and this and this, and like none of it was done, and it was just like too little, too late, I guess. But yeah, there was a lot of fall off from that, and like I remember it very fondly because and I remember the news cycle after that was just like, oh, thugs, the thugs with tattoos and their hair, like the usual bullshit, and like, well, yeah, dude, they I don't want to say they did not instigate it, but they were provoked, and they got, it happened, and you can't, and like they got charged. I don't recall for what, but some of it was kind of fucked up.
Right. I think it didn't help as well that Detroit players were kind of instigating it on.
Yeah.
They kept pumping up the crowd, and the Wallace guy, he was throwing his bands because I guess he liked to wear like 20 headbands to the game, so he was just throwing them into the crowd, and the crowd was just getting really fired up and really worked up.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting story. It was a good documentary, and to see that, I got a good impression off O'Neal, and for that, I did feel like he should have got something. Miller, not as much. Jackson, I think even Jackson got a ring, if I remember correctly. It's just those two, Miller and him, didn't. And let us know what you guys think at ffnquestions@gmail.com. But that's it for this week, Danny. We got to wrap this up. We want to thank everybody for listening. Remember, you can follow Freeform Network on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. Also, send your questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about the malice at the Palace, power naps, whatever we talked about. Send us everything there at ffnquestions@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out our webpage, freeformnetwork.podbean.com. There you could listen to our show. You could see profiles. You could see what platforms we're on. Like Stitcher, iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, the whole works. Whatever, you got links to it on that webpage. And whatever platform you do use, please like, share, and subscribe. And that helped us out immensely. So for Freeform Radio, I got Danny.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna go take one of those power naps you're talking about, Andy, and see if I can recoup from this daylight savings.
Remember, keep it under an hour, otherwise people are gonna judge you.
Right.
And it's all good, Andy. We want to thank you guys for listening. You guys have a good week, and we'll talk to you next time.
That was cool, Dad.